Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Braxus Photography Fun. Well, this is just a follow-up video that I posted either a week or two ago, and it was in regards to asking for advice on 8K video cameras, which are basically mirrorless cameras that are hybrids. The cameras that I broke it down to were the Canon R5 and the R5 Mark II, and the Nikon Z8 and the Panasonic S1R Mark II. So I don't have a Panasonic at any store I can try out just yet because it's still quite new. But I went to a store where basically they have a Nikon Z8 and also the original Canon R5. So let's go to the store and just basically I'm going to show some clips and some photographs that I shot between those two cameras just to see if I could see a bit of a difference. I brought along a resolution chart as well to see if we can see any detail differences between. The main reason for the test was to see if there's any noise reduction in the Canon that would kind of mar over the detail in the image in the 8K video, and the Nikon to see if it just outdoes what the Canon can do or if they're fairly close. So let's actually take a look at a few of the shots and video clips that I took on those two cameras. Let's look at that now. There's a button on the back. Okay. Just went into focus, that's different. Well, I came back from the store, took a quick look at the test results. I had to actually go back to the store a second time because the Canon camera overwritten, I should say, the Nikon Z8 files, because they both saved them to the same folder in the sense. So I lost all my original Z8 images, had to go back and reshoot them. So there was that difference, but luckily it was only a 20-minute difference between the first time and the second time. I don't live far from the store, so that's good. So I took a few quick look at the images. They're so close that either camera would be really good to use. The R5 is the original one, of course. They didn't have the R5 Mark II to test out. I mean, that one would probably be the one to go with for video, of course, but some people were saying that the R5 actually has slightly better sharpness or image quality than the R5 Mark II when it comes to video. So I don't know if that's true or not. Some people out there may have an idea on this. The colors, again, between the two cameras, and as far as the JPEGs are concerned, they're so close that, you know, the cameras have basically come to a pinnacle where they're almost all producing the same results. I did notice that the Nikon had an issue focusing on the eye and the eyelashes itself. It kept focusing on his nose for some reason. Whereas the Canon, I didn't have to change anything to get focus on his actual eyes and pupils and that kind of thing. So in the images I took today, the Z8, you know, they're slightly out of focus as far as the eyes are concerned. I didn't bother switching into eye control mode on either camera. I just wanted to see, you know, if I could get a quick image of each. I didn't have a lot of time to play with the cameras to really flesh them out and see. I did notice the Nikon had so subtle, slightly more saturation, which I tend to like. So in that sense, I like the colors slightly better on the Nikon. The Canon looked a little more flat in that respect. But again, they're so close that it really is a toss between them. For the video, I couldn't tell a difference. I didn't notice any noise reduction on the Canon. Both cameras, we used the 50mm 1.8 for each camera. I know the 1.8 on the Canon's probably slightly soft compared to the 1.4 and the 1.2 lens, but that's all they had to work with, and I wanted to keep it consistent as far as the 50mm prime is concerned. So I didn't have a choice in that one, but I went with the Canon's 50 1.8 regardless. The Nikon's probably a little bit better quality a lens than the Canon as far as that's concerned. I think there's probably a 3 or 4 times price difference between the two, of course, so you know, maybe that might show up a few things. But I'll have to check on my 8K TV just to see if I can see any differences there between these two cameras. I really don't know if there really is a difference at all. I had it set to MP4 for the file compression, of course, 8K at 30p, of course, and yeah, the Nikon looked good, but the Canon didn't look a whole lot different between that and the Nikon, so I'm just gonna have to check the video on my 8K TV and see if I can see anything. It just went into focus, so that's different. There's a button on it. It just went into focus. That's different. Okay, even though my file is still processing for the 8K on YouTube, I watched the 4K version, and very subtle difference between the Canon and the Nikon. The Canon doesn't seem to have quite the contrast as the Nikon does, but regardless, the Nikon looks ever so slightly sharper, and could be attributed to the lens I used for that camera instead of what the Canon's 50mm was producing. So it is sort of a draw, but the Nikon image does look cleaner. It's something that is a very subtle difference, but when you look at it on the screen close up, it does look slightly sharper and slightly cleaner than the Canon version. The thing that surprised me was my Fuji XH2 actually held its own. It looked almost as comparable to the other two, and that surprised me because the Fuji XH2 is a crop sensor, and I thought being that full frame would give you a slightly sharper image, and overall, yeah, it makes me even wonder if I even need to go full frame for 8K video if the Fuji seems to be doing fairly well on its own. But I do need a second camera for 8K, so I'll probably go for the full frame route anyway. But yeah, I'm gonna have to wait until the 8K version is processed, check it again, and see if there's any other subtle differences that I can notice on the TV screen. Now I finally saw the results off the 8K file. I initially tried uploading that 8K video file to YouTube, but after 2 days of waiting, YouTube did not seem to convert the file for anything higher than 4K, even though it says 8K right in the title of the video entry. So my TV didn't have the option to switch it to 8K mode for that particular video, so I gave up on trying with that. I took the original file made off Adobe Premiere Pro, which was converted to 8K MP4 at 180 megabits per second, and the raw file was put on a USB stick. I plugged that in the back of my TV, and it was able to read that file this time. And I watched the file a few times just to see if I could get a feel for any differences, what I noticed between the 4K version. But it is, again, it's like splitting hairs between the Canon and the Nikon. The Canon does seem to have a slight bit more noise to the video image in certain shots. Especially the one with the resolution chart where you could see a little fuzzies going along the lines, whereas the Nikon was a lot cleaner in that respect. So other people's comments about the Nikon being a little sharper, a little cleaner without noise reduction being used seems to be correct. And of course, I did use a crappier lens, so to speak, on the Canon with its 50mm 1.8, and it's not known to be a stellar lens, so that could be affecting these test results. I can't say for certain if that is the case, but from what I noticed, the Nikon just produced a better result in all aspects. The colors on the Canon were bold in some shots and not so bold in other shots. Like skin tones on the guy that was helping me at the counter. It looked a little more pronounced on the Nikon shot, whereas the Canon was a little more muted. And yet when I took video of the surrounding area near the photo area, the Canon seemed to produce more bolder colors on the signage and the surrounding area, whereas the Nikon was seemed a little more natural looking, but still a good color. I would say the colors on the Nikon are probably a touch better than the Canon. The Canon, in some cases, the colors seem to be, it's almost if the colors mixed with a little bit of black, which kind of muddies the color a little bit. You know, that's my interpretation. I mean, we're talking such subtle differences between the two cameras that you can almost see that there's negligible real differences. But if we had to nitpick and see if we could see any differences, the Nikon just seemed to produce a slightly better result. Again, that could be because of the lens the Nikon was using, or it could be just the way the Nikon was recording the 8K video. But make of this test as you will. I did throw my Fuji XH2, which is a crop sensor camera, into the mix in a few shots. You can obviously take a look back at what I've shown and see that actually the Fuji held its own compared to the full frame cameras, which really surprised me because this is the Fuji I'm using this video recording right at the moment, and it's using an 18 to 120 mil video lens, which is not known to be the sharpest lens for Fuji's outfit. And it seemed, with the video that I did off the resolution chart and compared it against the other two clips from the Canon and Nikon, it seemed like the Fuji almost looked a little bit sharper and better. There was definitely way more contrast. The color was also more neutral on the Fuji, whereas the Canon was warmer toned and the Nikon was in between the two of those. So yeah. It almost again makes me think whether the Fuji really needs an upgrade to full frame to get better 8K video. I was hoping to get a sharper video. Maybe the Nikon will get me that result. The Nikon seems to be the way to go if I was going to choose between the Canon and the Nikon to begin with. Only problem is I've got quite a few lenses for my Canon EF cameras, and I have the adapter for the R mount to do EF lenses on it, so the Canon is an easier fix. I also have a flash for the Canon, so I don't know. I mean, it would be an easier result going the old Canon R5. It would be the cheapest option. It would also be the easiest as far as gear is concerned, but if I really wanted to nitpick and get the best result, I think the Nikon Z8 is really the way to go. The only thing I don't like about the Z8 is it doesn't have an articulating screen on the back, so you can't flip it forward and watch the video as you're recording. The only way to really do it is to put a mirror in behind the camera and look at the mirror in the reflection to see the video off the camera that way. Not really the best way to do a video, carrying a mirror around to do that. But maybe a Z8 version 2 will have an articulating screen. Who knows? They were suggesting maybe in a year's time a Z8 version 2 will possibly be coming out. That's all rumors and speculation, of course. But if that's the case, then maybe I'll just wait. It probably won't be till late this year or even early next year before I even consider getting the R5 or the Z8 to begin with, because the money's tied up until then. But who knows, unless I find a used one, of course. But what do you guys think of my results? I did some split screen between the Canon and the Nikon, and also between the Nikon and the Fuji. And can you see a difference? Do you see a touch difference? The Nikon seemed to have a brighter color, or a brighter image as well, and that could also be a setting issue. But just basing everything off of automatic settings. You know, that's what I was getting. So, I don't know. Leave me a comment in the comment section below if you guys have something to say on this. Or maybe you could share your results with the Z8 and the Canon R5 Mark I. Yeah. So there you have it. I hope the store didn't mind me putting this video up with some shots inside their store. No copyright infringement is intended. I'm not trying to put the salesman on the spot either by posting a picture of him as well, but hope you don't mind that as well. Anyway, thanks for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you like. Well, thank you for watching, and aye aye and goodbye. Eh?